Hello and welcome to a Q&A session with the hosts of Stephen University show thing we do.
Can I just say, my neighbour's having a really loud phone conversation outside, so apologies if you can hear that. You shouldn't be able to, but if you can, apologies.
There we go. Just cover that right out the gate.
That's probably not the start you were expecting or wanting, Dan. But there we go.
I just feel like any energy that we might have had has just immediately been sapped. I'm here like, everyone, welcome to the Q&A that we promised everyone. It's going to be great and amazing. You're like, oh, there's something weird going on. Yeah, my neighbour's having this really loud conversation outside.
I'm excited for some Q&A action. Okay. We've never done this before. I'm excited by this. You go. Well, you've got the question, so you have to go first. But
yeah.
Give me question number one, Dan, and
question
thank you.
One.
Right off the bat, obviously, I'm sure we'll say it again at the end, but thank you to everyone for commenting and asking questions. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So we were overwhelmed and pleased at the response to that. A lot of people got involved, so that's good. Question number one: Chris, is the guy outside having a really interesting conversation, or is it very boring? No,
I can't hear too much of it, but it sounds a little intense, if I'm honest.
Oh, that's why he's taking it outside for the public to hear. Not being funny, but what a knobhead. Anyway.
It's a woman.
So no, the very first question. Oh, it's a woman. Apologies. I thought it was the previously mentioned neighbour that stole your water, who was a guy. That's a reference to our other podcast, Fringe Observers. Anyway, right. First question we got was actually just regarding of whether we're willing to accept fan graphics. Someone thinks we need an upgrade from our MS Paint logo. First of all, did it in Photoshop? Second of all, actually, surprisingly, took a long time to make because I had to find the background palette. I had to get the Steven Universe logo. Then I had to find a font that had looked spray painted, and then I had to line it all up. It was multiple layers. I compressed it. I did loads of, and everyone thinks I did it in MS Paint.
It's hard for me to contribute because I love MS Paint, and Jess said to me the other day, she was like, they're stopping MS Paint, and I was like, what? Like, I was legitimately upset.
Uh-huh.
So,
well, yeah. In genuine answer to the question, obviously, if somebody was to present us with some artwork that we thought was better, we would consider it. I'm aware it's not the best artwork in the world. So if someone
didn't someone do that though?
Someone did send us some artwork, but I at the time it was just bad timing because at the time I was in a big rut of like editing tons of these episodes trying to get us ahead, so I just didn't really want to think about it. But if anyone has sent us anything or wants to remind us of something they've sent in the past, feel free. The email address mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk should get to me. So yeah.
We would never sit here now and say no, we're categorically not going to accept anything. We're open to anything.
Yeah, if you send us something and we like it, then we'll probably go with it. Question number 2: would you consider using a pop filter to find a way to lower? In fact, no, sorry, I should name these people. The first question was from a Smoky Stroke, which is a.
That's incredible.
I don't know where to start with that username. In the comments to this video, please can you give us the context of that name? Because for my own benefit, I'm curious.
That's fantastic. That's so if we were also judging these usernames, that is a bar set high, Smoky Stroke. Yeah. So thank you very much.
So Slaughter Round has asked the question about the pop filters. So laziness has led to us not having pop filters. I've now purchased one based on your comment, and I believe Chris has done the same. I'm using mine as we speak. Chris, how about you?
Dan, I'm not using mine because it's still at work, but I did purchase it on time. I just haven't been in the office. It did make me laugh because Dan was like, I was mockingly, because he did tell me about this one in advance, and I was mockingly like, ugh, we've never had to worry before. And Dan's like, yeah, but we should have them. And I'm like, ugh. And then Dan's like, over the course of like that day, Dan was like, they're not expensive either. Here's a link. Like, Dan never at any point overtly went, purchase this, but you could tell that he was just like, looks pretty good. And I'm like, and so I purchased it there and then. I just didn't say anything. And then, yeah, so yeah, I've purchased one. Dan's got one. It's all good.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like we've had such a little dinky operation for 4 or 5 years with so few listeners. It's like, who cares? But I think now more people are listening. We should maybe consider that a bit more. Next question then is from a person with a name, and I'm not just saying that sentence. That is their username, which is also quite good.
Also pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, so far we're on a roll with these. These are brilliant usernames. I'm having more fun reading the usernames, to be honest, than anything else. No, the question's been very good. Okay, so so we did promise someone in one of their questions asked us to say where we were up to in the episode order. We've just recorded Story for Stephen, and for those of you wondering, we're doing it this comes up in one of the questions later, I think, but we have got the correct order, the original intended order, not the order they actually aired. So that gives you some context. This is a tough one. Which episodes are your most and least favourites so far at whatever point you're at? That is a great question, but I don't... Have you thought of this ahead of time, Chris?
No, I mean, I can think now. At least the obvious one, the one that can't be named. And I don't think it's gone up, but hopefully people might get a kick, as I think Dan did. I was really creeped out and weirded out by Watermelon Stephen. So I don't think that's gone up yet, has it? But
no, I don't think so.
When it does, enjoy that. Best, obviously, Mirror Ocean Gem was very good. Real fondness for Lars and the Cool Kids. Some of the recent ones, the Amethyst backstory one.
I think that was called On the Run.
I really liked the test. Yeah, On the Run. I really liked the test. I thought that just did some really interesting and great things with the Stephen character. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Alone Together as well. I know there was one. I know there was one where I was like, I really, really liked that. But it was the big turning point was around Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem. I quite enjoyed Stephen and the Stevens,
which is coming up for these guys. In the next couple of days, I think.
It's interesting because it's like there's that, and I think you'd said to people last week we're doing that one at a time, and I think that's the right way to do it because you analyze it that way. It's weird because it's not like after that episode I was like, oh, this show is amazing, but you couldn't that is the point where suddenly, like the few episodes after that, I'm like, oh, that was really great. Like you can, I think
your interest in the show and you're being impressed with the show, like your level of interest and like love and also like attention, like paying attention to the show, steps up drastically at that point. You clearly get very into the show from that point.
I think that's probably actually Alone Together. I give my first theory. Which if I think you said that's a question, so I will say that. I will save that for then. But yeah, Alone Together.
We're going to be careful because I think we're starting to spoil like the future of the podcast. I suppose we got to be careful. We don't want to give away what you do. Like,
really, you think? Oh, so you think I shouldn't say that? But that's if someone asks if I've got any theories, that's the answer.
Yeah, well, I think we should leave that for the podcast.
Okay,
we'll come to that.
Your favourite episodes? Least favourite?
Yeah, I mean...
But you can presumably name names and answer for the whole...
I'm going to do it up to now because I don't want to give away... I don't want to like have an episode in your head where you're going, that was Dan's favourite, so I'm going, looking out for that one.
Okay, yeah.
I'm always going to have a huge soft spot for Giant Woman because it's the first time that the show showed me what it could be. So that's a very important episode in my opinion. But yeah, Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem, obviously, very good. But I think of the ones we've seen so far, I think one of my absolute favourites continues to remain Island Adventure, which is a great episode. So yeah, I really like that. In terms of least favourite, it's got to be. I think it might be Garnet's Universe.
Remind me of... Garnet's Universe was bad. Yeah.
There you go. That's one. That was a little bit of a spoiler for the podcast there. Yeah, Chris didn't like that one either. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get to it in the podcast. But yeah, that's an interesting question. So yeah.
Shitty 8-bit animation of Garnet's Universe. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. When we get to it, you'll enjoy that. So favourite gem and favourite human. That's a tough question at this point.
Stephen. He's the only one that's both. Booyah. drops the mic.
You feel like you really feel like you've conquered all there, haven't you?
That was quite impressive, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I don't. You know what? I think this show has done such a wonderful job of making you feel affection for all three gems that I find it very hard to choose between them. I like them all for different reasons. I like the fun of Amethyst. I like the craziness, but also the orderliness of Pearl. I think Garnet's very funny and very sweet. So I struggled to choose a favourite. I think you could look at it another way, which is which gem do I right now most want an episode on, like a centric episode, and I'd say Garnet for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of the main three, I think Garnet maybe is my favourite, but I think my actual favorite character hasn't really had their moment yet, so I don't know if I can really talk too much about that.
Okay.
Favorite human though. Favorite human has quickly become Lars for me.
Yeah, I like Lars. I like Sadie as well.
Mm-hmm.
I
think we've made it. I think at this point it's pretty clear that our least favorite is been Ronaldo.
Yeah, I don't think we've aired that, but yeah, Ronaldo's least favorite. And obviously Greg as well.
Oh, Greg's great. We love Greg. Cool. So, what other shows do each of you like? Specifically, any other animated shows? Oh, I've not been reading names. Sorry. The question for whose favorite gem was Monobrobe. Good name. And then Imitar Curiel is asking what other shows do we like, particularly animated shows. Chris doesn't watch any other animated shows. But I'm a big fan of. I like BoJack Horseman very much. Rick and Morty is very good. I did like while it was still on the air, Gravity Falls. Loved, and I genuinely think it's basically a masterpiece. Over the Garden Wall, which is just a 12-episode miniseries, but it's wonderful. If you're a Steven Universe fan, you haven't checked out Over the Garden Wall, you are missing out. Go check it out. Also, do watch and enjoy Adventure Time, and it has really good moments, but they do sometimes struggle to give their stories good conclusions. So that's the animated stuff I watch. That's the main ones, I think. Have I missed some? I've probably missed some. I'm sure I've missed some. But yeah, there's a lot out there right now. It's a good time to be into animation. Really like Archer. Archer's very funny. Those are the immediate ones that come to mind. How about you, Chris? Oh, and of course,
animated.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, of course. Sorry, couldn't.
Loved Rugrats as a kid. Really enjoyed The Simpsons as a kid. I don't watch a lot of animated shows now, but I did. Animated. I suppose if you were to say to me, pick an animated show to watch, exclude Steven Universe, I'd say The Simpsons. What I've seen of Rick and Morty, I did really like as well. Otherwise, I think the shows that come to mind immediately would be The Office, both versions, Doctor Who, Friends, Only Fools and Horses. I think they're the big players for me.
Yeah, I'm into a lot of those shows also, very much so. If people are wondering what, so in terms of live action stuff, if you want to get a better idea of what our tastes are, there we do another podcast called Nothing But Static where we talk about the rest of the television universe. We talk about things.
Yeah, I think there's actually a specific episode. It's old now, but there's a specific episode where we talk about shows that inspired us. Somewhere, I don't know which it is, but yeah, somewhere. If you want to hunt that, but it is better to start with more recent episodes. So.
Yeah. So next question is, oh god, PAX does a thing, but it's all one word. PAX does a thing.
Nice.
Says
nice.
Chris, are there any old episodes that you weren't fond of that you now remember more fondly, or vice versa? Any episodes that you liked, but the more you think about, you like them less? One or the other.
I will answer that, and then you can choose whether we name the episode. We've recently done an episode where I started it going, that was good, and I ended, by the time we'd done our analysis, I know this isn't quite what you're asking, but I haven't rewatched any of the old episodes, so I think this is a more intriguing answer. There is an episode that we watched, and I started by going, I thought it was great, and this, and by the end of the podcast, I'm like, I think that's one of the best episodes of the show. So there is an episode that I appreciated more by analysing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
should we name it?
No, I don't think. I think you're right. I think we should leave
Okay.
that one. I think that's a really good tease for an upcoming episode.
Yeah,
and
because otherwise I haven't particularly rewatched any episode.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose if I now was going to rewatch something, I would check out with the knowledge now some of the earlier Lion ones to try and spot the teases to Rose and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Then we've got the same person asks, Chris mentioned before that it seems to be more fun to watch this show with a friend. Dan, having watched all of this show, do you agree? Yeah, I'd say so, because I watch it with my girlfriend when new episodes air, and I think that's a blast. And when I watch them on my own, I don't get as much out of them in terms of it's just there's a joy to the jokes in the show and the vibe of the show, and I think that's kind of infectious.
It is the more we've done this, it is because we do another show called Fringe Observers where we talk about Fringe in the same way. Someone I know at work has watched Fringe, so if I watch an episode in the morning or at lunch of Fringe and I'm bursting to say something, I can say it to him. I can't say anything because not even like I can go on forums or Google stuff because of spoilers. So it is annoying because in an ideal way, the way to watch this is like I try and watch it just before we record because otherwise it's like Dan's the only person I can talk to about the show, and it has to be on on air, as it were. Part of me wishes I'd started it with Jess and forced her to watch it too.
But then it'd be tricky to watch the episodes prior to the podcasts, though. I suppose.
Yeah. It would make timing an issue and stuff. So yeah, absolutely.
There's also Chris. Why were you asking about potato omelets?
Yeah, because Jess was making a Spanish omelette and she was claiming it was a Spanish omelette, whereas I was arguing it was a frittata.
What we discovered was that they're potentially the same thing. It's just
because basically before we recorded it, I was double checking with Jess that I had time to do it. Hence why this came up on air. And Jess was like, "Well, we're making the Spanish omelette," and I'm like, "Isn't it a frittata?" And then Dan gives his opinion, and it became a whole. And then
the real question became: if we're talking about how much time we have to record this video, why are we discussing whether it's the semantics of whether it's the definition of it?
Dan raised that very good point. Apparently, though, a Spanish omelette is cooked solely in the pan, whereas a frittata you transfer to the oven or the grill.
Oh, interesting.
So there you go.
It's
not interesting. Have a look. But...
No, I know. There you go. I've learned something new. So that's again favourite episodes and characters. We've now done that.
But thank you for asking.
That's PBJMS 100. Also, do you plan on uploading two-parters together or making us wait for the second part? I think it's going to depend on the two-parter. For example, the two-parter that takes place around episode 100 of the show might be best watched as one, as it aired as one. But for example, Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem have a clear cliffhanger ending point, and they both have their own little storyline related to the same thing, but different. So and obviously Chris, don't give away your thoughts on Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem too much here because of the
no I'm not I'm just going to say I think it's sure for me the most interesting way to do a two-parter is apart, because that's the point of it. Like, the writers designed it so that people would be going, how are they going to get out of this? I wonder what happens. Maybe this happens, maybe this happens. So to do them together would neglect the ability to do that. So I think in an instance, as you've just referenced, where it's a double episode, it makes sense to do it together. But when it's a two-parter, in the traditional sense of there was a cliffhanger and a gap between the two, then we do it as, because they're basically done as aired.
Yeah, because you don't want to, you need to discuss the first one in isolation without the knowledge of how the story wraps up to get your true opinion of it, I think. Yeah.
I think it's different. I appreciate, because people have said in the past, I don't know if anyone asks it here, about the Stephen bombs. I think it's fair to say, if anyone is wondering that, will we release them one a day in the same way the Stephen bombs did? It's kind of a logistical thing, because we do 2 a week, so doing that would get rid of, in 1 week, 2.5 weeks. So it would depend how far ahead we were
recording wise. Yeah.
But
we are considering it for Stephen Bomb 2 onwards. We're definitely not doing it for Stephen Bomb 1, and the reason that is, for those of you who don't remember, Stephen Bomb 1, one of the reasons the episode order got shuffled around is because they wanted to do this Stephen Bomb leading up to the finale, but there were a few less relevant episodes in there, so they took those ones out, stuck them at the beginning of season 2. So obviously there was just these 5 very focused episode story that goes from like I forget the exact run, but it goes right through to Jailbreak with the final of the first season. So I think that one is tricky to do, because if we did that as a bomb, we'd then have to revert to the original episode order, which I don't want to do for reasons I will explain as the podcast goes on.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that one was from PBJMS 100. Next question is from Maple Watt Productions, and it's could you start the Q&A by telling us what episode you were already up to, which we've done. So yeah, that would provide context to the answers. Yes, it would. We did that at the beginning. Thank you for your suggestion. We might not have done that had you not suggested it. So then Noxian asks, first of all, congratulations on making it one of the best episodes. We were talking about Rosa's Scabbard last on the little video that announced this Q&A. The first few SU episodes could be a bit of a drag, but hopefully you agree it was worth getting through them. Right. As for a question, Chris, now that you know the sort of darker side of Amethyst and Pearl's backstories, what sort of secrets do you think Garnet's backstory holds, if any?
Well, we discussed that in the show as well, so I'll be quite evasive, but I think the show's made it very clear that now it wouldn't surprise me if there was a backstory to Onion. There's got to be a backstory to Onion, surely, but I'm expecting backstories with mystery to everyone at this point. The show, nothing would surprise on that. So, in terms of if any, I think there's all backstory there, and backstory is covered.
And I think I was going to say, in the context of the podcast, the main episodes of the podcast, forgetting this Q&A for a moment, we definitely sort of talk about, fully enough, in a similar way to the way this question is phrased, when other characters have like deep dark episodes, I certainly probe Chris about what he thinks other characters' backstories might be. That comes up. Yes, so yeah. we discuss it in the show, and I don't want to spoil the podcast.
Yeah, and again, we're not being deliberately evasive on some of these. We know it's more enjoyable for you if you find out. It's to say, in a way, this is, it's the same as any kind of spoiler debate. Would you rather hear us come up with something, or would you rather us
summarize the conversation? Well, would you rather us summarize conversations we're ultimately going to have in more depth now, quickly in this format? Would you rather wait the actual podcasting to get the more detailed answer? That's what. Yeah, agreed. It's a shame that we can't answer all these, but that's the way it is. So that's not. Oh, he also asks if Dan, are you going to show Chris Say Uncle? Yes, that will come up. I'm also, for those of you wondering, definitely going to show Chris the original pilot of the show at some point. Haven't decided exactly when yet. And the extended intro of the show. We'll get to those. Probably.
That's great. There's an original pilot. That's cool.
There's a pilot. Yeah, there's a pilot that was made. I don't know how much of a length of time before the final show got made, but the designs are very different. It's stylistically quite different. The humor is there, and the characters are roughly what they are in the real show. But it is a fascinating thing to watch. But it's only fascinating in the context of the show. So I've held off showing you the early pilot because it's not at all like the show we were ultimately watching. But it is also very much, you can see the DNA of the show watching in there. So so that interest level only really comes once you know the show, if that makes sense. So I think I have a feeling we might cram all of those into one special episode. So we'll do maybe some of the webisodes that they've done, plus the extended intro, plus the pilot, and then discuss them all in one little session and put that up as a video as like a bonus at some point. That's what I'm thinking, but we haven't decided for sure yet. Dustin Koffner says, thank you for making me think about Chris masturbating. I love you guys. So yeah. I mean, I don't know what
wasn't really a question, but no problem.
You're welcome. Oh, brilliant. Okay. That's very good. Thank you for saying that. That's great. Now this is a shame because there's so much to dissect on this one. So I'm gonna quickly skim through it, I'm afraid, because we don't have time to go through it in fully. But this is from Paint Spot in Fez. He's saying he's a big fan of the series since he discovered it from the SU subreddit, which is where a lot of you guys found us. Thank you to whoever posted us on the subreddit at the time that it sort of hit the front page. That was good. I love basically every aspect of the podcast, and I've equally enjoyed it when Chris either loved or hated an episode. So y'all don't need to change a thing, which is lovely. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you for saying that.
few brief questions. Favorite characters. We've sort of covered that. Any episodes you're either likely... Wait, what's that? Sorry, let me reread that because I think I phrased that wrong. Are there any episodes that you either really like more or dislike even more after seeing later episodes? That hasn't really happened yet, has it? I don't think.
I think I think I think the sillier early ones are fine in a way because you establish the show and then you show growth. Cool. I think it's fair to say that when you've got the show, and I don't want to spoil the podcast too much, but it's just because you've named it, so I know it. But like the episode that won't be named, and like Garnet's universe, when you see what the show can do with depth and character and stuff like that, it does make you go, well, why'd they drop the ball so hard on X, Y, and Z? So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that any episode where they go deep, go character, there are episodes where they juggle a lot of balls successfully, so the episodes where you see them drop them is a bit like, But I suppose that's true of any show.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or was it more a question for you because you're rewatching it? So it might be more
but he's talking about.
But...
He says here. I think I'm just reading it badly. But are there any episodes that you either really like more or dislike more after seeing later episodes? So I think he or she is saying when you get further in, there are episodes that maybe inform past ones. He has the example of originally enjoying Stephen and the Stevens, but disliking it later on in relation to things that happen in the future. So things like that. But we'll have to get to that when we get to it. No, I think there's nothing that stands out at this point as following that. Is my answer.
No. If anything, just like I say, intrigued to potentially go back to like the Lion episodes now that that's got more context.
Yeah. And also again from Paintspot in Fez, Dan, at this point, are you, with the episode airing schedule, is when the episode airing schedule went awry. Are you sure you have the episodes in the right order? Yes, very confident because, and I talk about this in the podcast, but I was quite annoyed when I watched it originally about the episode order because I really don't think those late season 1 episodes work in early season 2. That I think they really interrupt the flow of late season 2, whereas they don't really interrupt the flow. They feel quite natural in their original positioning, or their intended positioning, I should say, in late season 1. So I can assure you that for my own annoyance at it, that I've correctly got the episodes in the right order. And maybe if I've made a mistake, I'm sure you guys will let me know when we get to it. So. Yeah, so this one's interesting. And I don't know. Basically, Chris, did you pick up that Garnet possibly had some sort of future vision during Arcade Mania? Because a lot of people were worried that I may have spoiled that fact. Basically, 20 episodes before it's outright confirmed. And I say, I mean, well. Just to clarify there for me, I'm pretty sure at the beginning of that episode, Pearl says specifically that Garnet has perceptive abilities that allows them to choose their missions, which pretty much hints at foresight. But maybe I didn't. Maybe I gave you too much. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I can't remember either. No, I can't remember you spoiling anything or Pearl saying anything that would lead to that. She was certainly transfixed to the arcade machine. I remember noticing that, but no, I don't know. That wasn't spoiled at all.
There you go. Let's see. So, here, this is an interesting one. From the same person, Paintspot. This is Paintspot's last question. Chris, are there any things you understood better after watching future episodes? Example, after Ocean Gem revealed the fact that the monster things are corrupted gems, did you end up realizing what Dan was trying to do around Monster Buddies with getting you to notice the fact that briefly Centipedal had a human form? So yeah, I was trying to draw your attention to it so it would make more sense when it got revealed. But in Monster Buddies, obviously, when Centipedal gets reforms, takes a couple of forms before becoming Centipedal, one of which is humanoid, and I pointed that out to you to sort of ensure that when they revealed in Ocean Gem about the corrupted gems, that you would know. So I guess they're asking, are there any other things like that?
Not that I can think of on the spot. Lion makes more and more sense. as we go on and see more on his relationship to Rose. There's stuff we've had, obviously the episode with Little Butler, so there's stuff like about how Greg and Ameth, there's little character things like how they interact with each other that you go, oh yeah. So, but I'd say it's more character than plot. Apart from anything related to any theories that come up.
That is fair. Jay Blaze asks which gem is Chris's favourite. We've covered that, but thanks for the question. Lemon Invader, will Dan do any more cover songs? Well, a little teaser. There's an episode that we recorded before that episode went up where I did the cover, Stephen and the Stevens. We recorded it before that went out, and I said, and we had another situation where the episode fell a little short. And Chris was like, do another song. And I was like, I don't know how the first one went yet. So we said we'll add a song to the end depending on the feedback. So if there's no song, the feedback for the first song was terrible. And if there is a song, the feedback for the first song was good. So
the feedback was good, wasn't it?
The feedback was very good. So we will be doing another. There'll be another cover for my sins. I am embarrassing myself yet again.
And they will return in the future as well. There's a point where there's none because Dan's laptop broke, so I didn't want to give him any more editing to do, not knowing how quickly he'd have to edit. But once that situation is resolved, then you will hear more songs.
There you go. Chris has just promised that I'm doing more than the one we've already agreed to. Damn, that's unfortunate. Yeah. Great. Have we done this one? Oh no, here we go. Oh, this is a great one. So did I mention who did that one? That was Lemon Invader. Yeah, I did do that one. I can't pronounce this username, and I'm very sorry. It's Eli Justiche. I can't pronounce that. Jeschke. Do either of you have? Oh my. Gemsonas or gem OCs? So I guess that's like a gem-based persona thing. No, that's like a very fandom-y thing.
I don't understand the
like
question.
If you were a gem, which gem would you be? Which kind of gem would you be? You can choose an actual Earth like gemstone and make your own persona for it up if you'd like. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I thought you were just saying who do we like relate to and to which the
Well, you could answer that question if you'd like, Chris.
Yeah, well, great question, but not that I don't know the gems that well.
And when he says that, he means he literally doesn't know what on Earth counts as a gemstone.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the characters, Pearl, because she overthinks. I'm not as organised as her, but that overthinking and that worry that you also see in Stephen, I definitely have. People at work are trying to get me to get jabs for going to France because they say that it would be in the mountains and there's lots of ticks. So that that's a worry.
No, there you go. Ultron32 asks who are your favourite gems. We've covered, but also asks a great question. Chris, if you could replace your fingers with an animal, which animal would you choose?
I know which I wouldn't choose.
Does it rhyme with schmack fingers?
Jesus.
It's a good question. I think I would. What would I choose? Something really impractical because it would be like lions or something, like full on just 10 lions just like erupting from my fingers, just dragging me about the place.
See, I was trying to go practical, so I was trying to go like, I was trying to think what the most finger-like animal would be, and all I could really think of was like a tortoise, because that's obviously a shell, so that's quite fingernail-like in a way. So you could probably pass it off as, oh, those are some really funky fingernails. Yeah, little tortoises. Say tortoise. Because I can't think of anything, like if you had 10 birds, you probably still wouldn't be able to fly, so I can't think of anything productive or cool in that way. So instead I go the other way, which is something not that invasive. So a tortoise.
Yeah, I'd go for snakes.
10. Yeah, I don't like snakes. Well, my mum doesn't like snakes, so but that is another similar logic choice.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. To what extent do you go to avoid spoilers, Chris? For example, do you avoid certain websites or use filters? Chris doesn't go to any websites that would talk about animation, so there's very little chance of him stumbling across spoilers unless he bobs about our YouTube channel. I think is that the answer? I don't know. Explain.
Yeah, that's the answer. I avoid anything related to Steven Universe, but sometimes I want to know like comments and don't feel I can bug Dan. So I've got like a friend at work, and Jess will sometimes have a scan through the comments and say anything that isn't, that they don't deem to be spoilerific.
Yeah, it's very rare.
Like the episodes with the song, for example, I probably asked to hear what that was like, or the episodes that I know I loved or didn't like. So yeah.
There you go. That was from IG64, that question, by the way. He also says, not a question, but I've noticed how your YouTube channel's header photo has Dan on the left and Chris on the right, while I had always assumed you were the other way round. Now I'm having trouble picturing Dan's voice coming out of his face. I mean, this is a very British reference, but we're not Ant and Dec. We don't have a way round that we go. For those of you who don't get that reference, in England there's a very famous presenting duo called Ant and Dec, and they're always stood the same way round. We actually don't record in the same room, so there isn't a way round as such.
Yeah. It's just
we record, and because a few people might have actually did ask this on the video where we talked about recording in the same room for the first time. To clarify, what we actually do is we each have our own individual mics in separate places with us, and then we can hear each other because we're actually connected to a phone call at all times through our headphones.
Yeah. We are speaking through the phone, and we are recording onto completely separate recording devices.
And then I line up the audio. Yeah, that's right. I line up those two audio files when I edit them. So we're capturing our audio completely separately from each other. So there you go. Agent of the Nether says, for either of you, who is your favourite gem and why is it Pearl? which is very good.
What's amazing about that is I said I'd prefer to see one of Garnet. I do, so I'd probably hang out with Pearl the most though.
I think a little insight here. I am starting to develop the theory that Chris has a little crush on Pearl. That's what I think's happening.
I'm fine with that theory.
That's my theory. No, I think that it's this favorite gem thing is a really tough. Almost everyone has asked it, and it's really tricky because it is really hard to pick. I am currently okay. Honesty time. I am currently staring at a lump of amethyst, actual legitimate rock amethyst. I'll take a picture of it and put it up on the video. It'll be now. There you go. So you can see this. Admittedly, and it's partly because that was the cheapest one to obtain, because a lump of pearl or a lump, maybe a lump of garnet wouldn't be too hard to come across, but I do relate, I think, possibly most to Amethyst, because she feels, I think often she feels a little bit out of place, and like she came into things a bit late. You look at the episodes like On the Run, like she obviously wasn't always a crystal gem, which, by the way, for those of you who yell at me because I'm spoiling stuff for Chris, he's now seen that episode. So I think it's Amethyst is probably the one I would argue I relate to most, because I'm nowhere near as neurotic as Pearl, although that is an element of my personality also, and I would love to be as stoic as Garnet, because it feels like nothing phases her. But those are like, whereas the vulnerability of Amethyst, I feel like is something I sort of really relate to and appreciate in a character. So I think for me, if I had to choose, maybe then it would be Amethyst. But it is very difficult to choose. Very difficult.
Yeah,
They're all great.
I'm most fascinated by Garnet at the moment, but I agree with that. I think they do a good job of all of them. But I do have a soft spot for Pearl.
You have a soft spot for Paul? Who's Paul?
I love Paul.
For future reference, can we just start calling Pearl Paul?
Pre-warn you, Dan. I thought before we started recording, I looked and I was like, 2 and a bit hours, that's fine. Looking at it, it looks like it was only 2 hours. I've only got 5 minutes left, so I can either stop and delete some files or be aware of that. Up to you how you want to handle it.
Oh, that's annoying, because damn. Okay, let's keep going for now and let's see how far we get. Keep your eye on it for me and let me know. But if anyone wondering, our recorders have like time limits on them because the cards, there's a limit on file size.
If that's not cut, that's why.
Yeah. So what's something the show hasn't done yet that you guys would like to see? Any sort of premise. For me, it would be an episode from Rose's point of view.
Yep. I think a Rose point of view one is a good one. I also really, really wanted to see one where there wasn't really like a lot of gem stuff. You hear me become fascinated by that concept, and the show delivers it with the flashback one we've just seen, A Story for Stephen, and there was another one I can't remember, but
yeah,
it did
there's been one or two of them recently in our recording.
Yeah,
so
so I really wanted to see that, and I'll take more of that anytime.
Beautiful, that's good. That's cool. So let's see. For me, sorry, that same question, I suppose. I want lion. Give me lion, all the lion. I want more of, including everything. I want the entire.
Surely
history.
you got more lion since.
I've got more lion than you've got, but that doesn't mean I've got all the lion. There's so much lion left to lion.
Okay.
I want all the lion. Give me from birth to present day. A lion spin-off series is basically what I want. So we move on to the next question. On the last couple now, Chris. This has been a bit of a marathon. Maybe I should have, filtered. Interesting question here, actually. How hard has it been to avoid spoiling anything? I guess that's aimed at me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you've already answered your side of that, which is avoiding spoilers in general, which is avoiding like comment sections particularly, and also obviously avoiding the comments on our videos, which you don't read. I for those wondering, if you write a comment and compliment Chris or anything like that, and you don't spoil anything, I do screenshot it and send it to Chris. He does get to see the feedback, and I believe you also, if I'm not mistaken, you have a friend who's been doing a bit of that as well, where she's been reading you some of the more related, like the less spoilery feedback, or the least.
I just chatted about that. I do. Yeah, I've got a friend at work and Jess does it.
Yeah, you did say that. Well. Sorry, yeah, literally, you said that like 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
That's how long a marathon it's been, Dan. You don't even remember us talking about.
Yeah, dear Lord. Dear. For me, it's been. I'm gonna say now. This has been asked by a person with a name, which is I think that's the second question. Yeah, from person with a name. So hello again.
Yeah,
welcome back. Yeah. Person with a name. We don't know what that is, but good. I'm sure you have a name because your answer says you do. Your username says you do. So we don't know what it is, but we're all fascinated.
I'm equally sure you're a person.
Yeah. With
a name.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been torture. I'm not gonna lie, because there's so much pressure on me not giving certain stuff away, to the point where I've received vaguely threatening messages about giving certain things away. Not in the more public places like the YouTube comments, but like direct messages and PMs and stuff on like Reddit. There is a lot of pressure, but the problem is the nature of our discussions has always been, in all of our podcasts, super relaxed, very chilled out. Very just give our thoughts, don't worry too much about it. We just do what we do and not worry really too much about, like, because I think if you overthink these things, you start forcing the podcast to be something it's not, and then that's not really natural or doesn't really work, and then it's a whole thing. So we've always done it that way, but the problem is that's very much at odds with this voice at the back of my head that's constantly going, don't say that, think it through first, check that it's not.
I was going to say, how often during an episode are you actively thinking that then? How often are you like, oh shit, I can't, what can I say, what can't I say?
Once a minute, 100%. Like, it's so hard not to have that be the focus.
Because it must be hard to keep track of what we've seen, because you're actively watching it. Yes. So what goes where, what I know, what I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. It's really hard, because the show gives its information out in little bits, and it's very easy to forget what you have and haven't seen, because the bits aren't always related directly to the story of the episode. So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to figure out what you have and have not yet had information-wise. Some of it's very clear and obvious, some of the bigger things, but some of the smaller details, not so much. I mean, even that example someone gave earlier, Future Vision, I don't remember that particularly happening. My recollection of it is that the episode we talked about it is the episode that it was quite clearly sort of suggested. But maybe I did give you more information than the episode had, or confirm more things than the episode had, and then obviously it naturally came up properly later on. Maybe that's what happened. And I always feel bad when I say something I shouldn't have and people give me loads of criticism. Guys, please appreciate that it is really hard really hard to be actively participating in a conversation about a TV show without giving things away about that TV show. So whenever I do slip up, please give me a break. I am trying. I really am. I mean, to the point where people even started to like get worried when I did my cover of the song, because Chris hasn't heard that yet. Because of course that song could arguably be spoilery. So I told Chris actively not to listen to it until we got to the point where that's the thing. So I am doing my absolute best to try and keep Chris as fresh as possible for these episodes. So a little slack would be lovely.
He makes a very, very concerted effort not to do that.
Yeah, and it is really difficult, especially when Chris starts theorizing. I really struggle because obviously he throws a bunch of theories out there. Well, not a bunch. He has a handful of theories, and obviously some turn out to be accurate, as we've already talked about, and some not so much. So not giving away whether he's right or wrong is challenging. So yeah, it's just one of those things. So yeah, I hope you guys appreciate that is not an easy feat. So there you go. Yeah. That one was from a person with a name, and then Frankie Desmond asks, I know you guys have been podcasting for a while with a smaller audience before Steven University. That is absolutely true. Has a growing audience caused you to do anything differently or think differently about the content you're making? Thanks, guys.
No. which is perhaps why we've not been successful beforehand. It's made us. I think it's fair to say it's difficult because it is a smaller audience for Nothing But Static, but it is an audience that is 5 years old. So we've made a very concerted effort to try and treat everything the same. I think it's fair to say that we, more so Dan, who edits them all, went to the decision. And I'm not going to bleat on about the reasons why, apart from to give credit to Dan again because it's him that's editing it. I think the decision to go twice a week is the biggest thing we've done as a reflection of the success of this podcast. Going to the effort to produce more content for this show specifically, because for the reasons just listed, the fact that the other shows have been going so long, and whilst this is a bigger audience, it's not 5 years down the line, so it's not had a chance to prove itself to be a loyal audience, as I hope you will do, and it will be. So we for those reasons didn't want to ever, it was never even a question to, okay, well, if we go to twice a week for Steven University, should we just go to a fortnightly for Fringe Observers? It was always going to be something extra. And again, I'm not the one that, I have to record an extra 15-minute podcast a week. It's not too much effort for me, but the effort of Dan for editing and uploading is huge. So I think that is a decision that we only did based on the success. So in that sense, it has. In the sense of what we're talking about, what we're saying, how we're doing it, no, I think it would be unfair to actively change something on the other two as a result of this podcast. And I think if this podcast is getting a good reaction and being liked for us doing what we're doing, then we just have to keep going as we're going, especially given that we record it ahead of time. And I think that, however, naturally, if you do something for 5 years, you'll grow and change. So the podcasts all naturally develop. I don't think we've ever made an active decision to think, okay, well, what was going right or wrong with this one, and how can it influence either this one or the others? Especially because if we did that with this one and went, okay, people are responding to this, let's use that to influence it, you'd get 15 episodes before that came into play. So,
The only other example I can think of a slight change we've made based on, partly based on that, in this example, it was something I was thinking anyway, and then when someone said it, I went, yeah, which is, and you guys, I'm sure listeners will be glad to know we eventually switched to this, but eventually we do switch to Chris describing what happened in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was something I was thinking about, and then someone said it, and I went, okay, I'm not crazy. That is the way to do it. So towards the as we get towards the season 1 final episode, so as we get towards episode sort of 50 odd, that does shift.
Yeah, I think it's early 40s actually. That shifts. And because I've been doing it for a few episodes now, and we're on like 46 or whatever.
Yeah, we've done it for a handful.
We also purchased pop guards, but that's more of a reflection directly from this Q&A as opposed to any success.
This is true. Yeah, and the last one just comes from James. It better be a good one, James. You're the last question. And thank you to Frankie Desmond for that last question as well. It's very good. So this will better be a good one, James. No pressure, yeah? No pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say great work, guys. I'm enjoying the podcast because I love it when people get into some of my favourite shows or games. Speaking of which, what are your guys' favourite games? Now, that's interesting because, I'm glad you just didn't ask what are your favourite gems, because then... When I read what your favourite and then saw the letter G, I was like, crap, we've had this question. That can't be the last one. But games is an interesting point. For me, I'm a big fan of the original Arkham Asylum game. I really love Red Dead Redemption. I've enjoyed the Crystal Dynamics, the last two Tomb Raider games. I did enjoy Attack the Light, the Steven Universe mobile game. I think that's what that one was called. And I'm looking forward to the upcoming one, which the title of has escaped me for this moment, but that's a pretty good. I'm a huge Portal fan as well. Love the Portal games. What else? Yeah, no, that's the main ones. Oh, I like the Pokemon franchise a lot as well. I play a lot of Pokemon games. So there you go. That's my gaming.
I have a similar relationship with games that I do with animation. You might be disappointed to hear. I've never been a particularly big gamer as a kid. I liked Crash Team Racing a lot. We used to play that a lot with mates. And Crash Bandicoot and Sonic the Hedgehog, which I had on a Mega Drive, which was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a console beyond PlayStation. I've always, I think, is the way you engage with games as a teenager. I was engaging with TV in that way. So I would sit where people would sit in their room and play games. I would sit in my room and watch TV. The way you engage with games as an adult. So if you're on the bus, you're playing a game, whatever. I engage more with music. Jess said something interesting the other day. She said you hate silence, and I was like, what? And she was like, you are always either listening to music or like clips of something on YouTube or something like that. And I'd never noticed that before. But you have to be more sort of active with gaming. And it's just for no particular reason. No, it's not like I had a bad experience with games or anything. Just
a game didn't kill your parents or anything like that.
Yeah. Games didn't shoot my mum and dad outside a cinema and make me turn into a bat. It's one of those weird things. And it's weird because people meet me and think I'm a gamer. Like, they do sort of assume I'm a gamer, which I don't know what that quality is. But I, if I can be even maybe like particularly nerdy, I don't know, Sevens and Knockout Wisp and a game called Donkey are some great... And Rummy, I fucking love Rummy. Some great card games that I like. But I mean, like, a deck of playing cards, card games.
There you go. You had more answers than I thought you would for that.
What, as in it was a deeper answer, or like?
No, because you named some games. Crash Team Racing's a great game. You named Sonic. Like I honestly thought you were like, I've never played a game. I didn't. No.
It was one of those things where all my Crash Team Racing is in a way is and a Freestyle Scooter I liked. The reason Crash Team Racing is the answer is because all my mates were into games. I just wouldn't really say much when they were chatting about them, but it meant that when they came round mine, they'd be like, why aren't we fucking playing games? So I had a PlayStation and played Crash Team Racing a lot. Like, Crash Team Racing was the game we played round my parents' house. So I have fond memories of that. But I had to own a PlayStation to appease my mates. So yeah.
Oh, and I just thought of a slightly extended answer to an earlier question about other TV shows that I like. I do like a little. I watch a little bit of anime as well. I watch like Dragon Ball Z and Attack on Titan and Death Note, and I watch shows like that too. I forgot to mention those. There you go. There you go. That's it. I don't know if this was terrible or good or what this was. Feedback in the comments, I guess. But is this something we should do again? Did people enjoy hearing that? I don't know.
Did people listen to all like 50 whatever minutes of it? Let us know.
Well, this will be. I think we'll have to edit this because I think there's some stuff we said that was spoilery. So this might come down to about 40, 45 minutes, depending on. But we've recorded for at least 50. So yeah,
we've recorded for nearly an hour.
Oh,
well,
dear.
we've been recording for 2 and a bit hours. We've done some other podcasts tonight.
Yeah, we recorded.
So
we recorded Story for Stephen for this one, and we what did you for Making Angels for Fringe Observers.
Yeah, I tell you what, Jess has been cooking, and it kind of smells like she might have bought garlic bread, but I don't want to. I'm worried that
you don't want to hope.
In my head, there's garlic bread and there's not. So
yeah, I've not eaten yet, so I've got to figure out what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Guesses to what I ate after this in the comments below.
Yeah, were you ordering in?
I haven't decided, Chris. Genuinely haven't decided. I might cook something. I might just go out and get something. I don't know. I haven't decided.
Add a picture of your dinner now.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
And here is a picture of me either smiling, holding some garlic bread, or looking a little bit sad with
you don't have garlic bread. Okay.
That picture's coming in now.
There you go.
There you go. Oh, for anyone listening to this on iTunes, please see YouTube for all the.
Oh, I don't think we're putting this up on iTunes. This is YouTube only.
Fine. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough then. Yeah. Cool. So enjoy those pictures, and there we go.
Take care, guys. Thank you for listening. You're the best. We love you all.
Bye.